Welcome back to the FTR podcast. I'm Daniel again.
I'm Georgia again.
I am George.
For the first time.
Yeah, I'm here. I wasn't here last week. They just couldn't plan it with me properly. Unprofessional. Same old Arsenal fans. Deluded.
Says the Derby fan. Anyway, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm a Derby fan. Born and bred in Derby. Been a season ticket holder since 2014. I've seen over 100 home games and one promotion in my lifetime from League One to the Championship. not a great start, but we move on the upwards.
Technically level in the end. Championship, League One Championship. So
Nah, we're way below.
Not
What
too
we
Have you ever seen Derby in the Premier League in your life?
No.
Great.
And when we were in the Premier League, mate, we got 11 points when I was alive. It was not a great one.
Yeah, not the greatest.
Worst team in history.
It's all right. We'll move on to the current teams in the Premier League. Hopefully, they might beat your record.
Hopefully one that's in red, close by Derby. Would be lovely.
Yeah, he hates Forest, understandably so.
Like every Derby fan.
Supposed to.
See, I don't have anything against Forest. I think their transfer strategy, it's a bit crazy, but it's worked so far, and I think they're going to stay up.
Hey, mate, I can't remember who I was talking to, but yesterday I think I was talking to my dad, and he was talking. We watched the Ipswich highlights, and I remember just saying to him that they've spent money, like a lot of money, but I don't think that they've done it in the way that you should. If you're going to spend money when you've just been promoted, you've just got to go for it. Because if you come back down financially, you're going to be screwed because the EFL do not care about your finances. They want you to go out of business. In reality, they don't care.
Yeah, it's only the top dogs because that's what brings them the big money. Could be anyone.
Could be anyone.
Could literally be a 5-side team turn up on Sunday and they know as long as it's Man United, same amount of views. Genuinely. Half the Man United fans would watch them play against a 5-side team. If Arsenal did, I would watch Arsenal play.
That is true. EFL. I won't go into the EFL.
Do you watch Arsenal women's team then?
Not frequently, but if they were on the telly and I was free, I'd watch it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I thought you were one of the fans that didn't watch the women's team. That's it.
I know the women's team.
Okay.
Little's the captain at the moment in pre-season. Yeah.
Good. I was just asking a question. Don't get so defensive about it.
Trying to judge me. What about Inter Milan's women's team, huh?
No, I don't watch it.
That's what I thought.
To be fair, in my defence, I can't even watch the Italian matches at the moment because
sticky ones. Still.
it's just they only put a couple of them on whatever it is, TNT Sport. So yeah.
But anyway, let's get into the match results. So on the Saturday, the first kickoff. Let me just pull it up and we'll just look through it. So
we don't have my iPad today because it's recording.
Yeah. So the first kickoff on Saturday was Brighton Man United.
What a lovely game. What a great game.
It's a great feeling to hear Rio Ferdinand crying on telly. Can't lie.
I feel like all three of us don't like Man United, so it's the perfect result.
I don't like the Big Six. I don't agree with it. So Man United especially.
Oh, it felt so good. I mean, with the United goal, I love it because all the United fans were raving about Xerxes and bigging him up so much after last match. And what he did was good, but it wasn't spectacular. And they're making it sound as if he's the second coming of Jesus. You know what I mean? Like, oh wow, he's going to change bread into chocolate for us. Like, no.
Yeah,
it's the same old. You're munching on grass.
We've all seen a Jesus in the Premier League, and he's not a very prolific striker, is he? let's be honest here.
You ain't wrong there. But for me, the main thing was I saw Xerxes and I was like, oh. And I thought Bruno was offside in the pass in the build-up. And then I saw he was onside. I was like, crap. I was like, no, because I'm a hate watcher.
I think it was a good goal, but I'm quite happy with how Brighton is playing these first two matches.
To say the manager's 31 years old.
Yeah, exactly. I'm quite surprised. I'm quite happy about it.
I mean, I still don't know his name. You know what I mean? Even on the last podcast episode, I was asking for his name. I still don't know off the top of my head.
Can you check?
It might take a moment, but I can have a look. can have a wiggle on with it, but
Never heard of him.
Fabian Herzler.
What other teams has he?
I believe before he managed a Bundesliga team, got them promoted to the Bundesliga last season. They went unbeaten for a large period of last season too. So he did well apparently, but obviously German league
Against the Premier League, yeah, there's no...
There's a huge difference, and on top of that, it was a low-tier German team, let alone Brighton or something like that. But coincidentally, I watched a video about Brighton, and the person making it was talking about how Brighton's model doesn't depend on the manager at all. Whoever the manager is, it could be, like, you know what I mean? It could be your dad, could be anyone. As long as the players buy into it and play alongside it, it works because they get talented players in and they're able to sell and recruit. And it's kind of the dream of any lower down supporter, really. I mean, for example, you, George,
Yes.
you would sell everything you own to swap place with Brighton with Derby, wouldn't you? Let's be real.
Yeah, to be fair. I mean, in the most normal way possible, the transfer strategy that we've gone through as Derby is very much over the recent years. We spent 30 million in 2017, 2018, saw no profits on any of those signings because they were all old, all like 30-year-old pensioners. We just tried to basically get promoted from the Championship in one good go, and
Didn't work.
did not work. No, as you could tell, 30 million just thrown away like that. Whereas if you invest in a youth player and he's a decent player, they don't have to be amazing there and then, but as a player we've got at the moment on loan from Crystal Palace, David Ozo, monster of a player, but if you'd had a younger player like him at 19, the way he can develop and the ceiling he has, you're like, invest in that instead of 30 million on absolute dross.
It's one of those, I think it's similar to almost the bottom half of the Premier League teams. It's the difficulty of, do you invest in these young talents who often go wrong, or do you spend money, 30 mil on a Jordan Ayew? You know what I mean? Like an old but a more level-headed player who might be able to, with his experience, keep you up. It's a very difficult balance to make because if you sign loads of young players, you get in a situation like Chelsea. They've got young players, nobody's there saying, all right, lads, calm down, let's focus up here. And that's why they suffered and struggled last season. But
How many players has Chelsea signed though? That's the problem.
we'll get to Chelsea, don't worry.
Okay.
But Man United,
Wake up, guys.
their defence, I mean, do you think that's a product of them signing so many defensive signings, two of their defensive signings, last minute in the transfer window, not enough training sessions, not used to the system yet?
I don't know. I was only watching Maguire, like, defending. It's shocking.
That's a great
No,
response.
I agree with you. Probably it's just they have to catch up with the training and with, whatever they're told to do. But I just don't think it was a good match. Just don't think it was good at all.
It's one of those. It's for me, that first goal which Welbeck scores is completely not Maguire's fault because he's marking his man.
Yeah,
It's
but the
Lisandro
second one.
Martinez.
Look at the second one. I'll show you the picture.
Yeah, I know, but we're focusing on the first one.
Okay. Sorry.
First goal.
Go
First
ahead.
goal. It's not Maguire's fault. Maguire's marking his man. He's expecting to cut back to him. Marks him. It fizzes outside of him. He still puts his foot out. Full stretch. Can't reach it. Fizzes in behind him. Where is Lisandro Martinez? Instead of marking the free man in the middle, he decides to mark the back post.
Yeah.
That's not his job. That's the left back's job. And because he doesn't do his job, Danny Welbeck taps it in and yet again scores against Man United. And I love it. But that's the situation which they were stuck in. And I mean, when you look at the second goal, it's yet again the setup. Players being confused as to who do I need to mark? Who do I need to do this? Who do I need to do that?
Look how many players were in the same spot. There was like 5 or 6.
And when you look
And
at the
then-
players who were in the middle, Scott McTominay was one of them. He's one of your midfielders. He
Yeah,
should be in a
exactly.
centre-back position. Where are they all?
You don't know, though. I think it's down to the fact that they do weird zonal marking at Man United, and I don't agree with it. None of them really know what they're supposed to be doing at the back. And they made the substitution of Maguire for De Ligt, didn't they? In that late. I really am a true believer of that. If Maguire's not injured, you leave your back four the same, or you add De Ligt into it to make it a back five. Because at least Maguire has the know-how of the Premier League to know this is what we need to do. We need to just basically hold our line here, and you've got men to mark. Whereas I agree with the Lisandro Martinez should never have been flying all over the place. But what does he do? He's the kind of guy that thinks he needs to take charge because other people aren't going to do their jobs. No, you just got to trust your teammates.
Yeah, I think it's something which... It's just one of those, I think it's applicable to daily life. Sometimes you can't sweep up everybody else's mess. You just need to make sure your stuff is done correctly first and foremost. Then you can start sweeping up other people's business. But with Lisandro Martinez, he was flying in here, there and everywhere. And I think the reason for the De Ligt substitution is because he's trying to do what most managers do with substitutions when they come in. Not defensive substitute signings, but more midfield and attacking, even fullbacks, because I think centre-back partnerships are very big and very important. So I think it was interesting to see how, out of nowhere, now every match, they're trying to switch up their centre-back pairing. Because for those first 5 minutes, you know it's going to be shaky for them. Because you're in your full juice, full flow, whatever you want to call it. If you just made a substitution on their fresh legs against them, and you're not there like, okay, this is a solid partnership. They've played less than 90 minutes together. You know you can come on, you can just, okay, yeah. Then there's going to be a bit of disruption here. And I think that's where a big issue is for Man United. If they want to sort it out, I think they need to just say, you know what, we got De Ligt in, we want him to start, let's start him in the match, throw him into the fire a little bit.
Was that his first match then?
No.
With Man United, like, in the Premier League?
No, he didn't start that match and he didn't start last match, he was a substitution in both.
Okay, yeah. So, no, yeah.
I don't think that's the problem though for Man United. I'm a big believer on that their midfield is not strong enough for the Premier League. I think they've got Premier League quality in that midfield, but they haven't got the balance right. I think you can't be whacking a Casemiro, Mason Mount, and a Kobe Mainu is a 3. That's not going to get you.
I mean,
anywhere.
they're almost playing like a box in the midfield with Bruno Fernandes there, and they're just having 2 wingers and no striker until later on when they make subs.
Yeah, I don't know the formation properly. I mean, I was watching the game thinking, what is the actual format? I know that they've got 4 players at the back, but Man United, what are you doing going forward? Because Casemiro half the time was in Brighton's box, whereas I thought he'd be your pivot, deep lying playmaker, or just your absolute bruiser ready to hurt somebody, but he's just all over the shop in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the Jose Mourinho quote, investments from the past. When you look at the investments of the past from Man United, even at the moment, that's what every club runs on. It's, okay, what has the past 3 transfer windows said for you, for example? And for Man United, it's been, oh no, it hasn't worked out, who do we buy? And for them, Casemiro is one of them where if you buy him, you need to have him so he settles into that midfield and for it to make sense. He was never the one controlling the tempo, marshalling it. That was Luka Modric and Toni Kroos. So are you going to have somebody else do that in that midfield? No. Okay, so you've got none of that. So you've got no cohesion. You've got no guys calm down in the midfield, anything like that. Same with the defence. They spent 80 mil on Harry Maguire, who is a slow centre-back. He's not super fast, so he can't play a high line. And then immediately after signing him, they start playing a high line. It doesn't make any sense. And I mean, even with the recruitment which they're making recently, I know they've got Ineos in and all this and all that, but for me, I look at it and I see, okay, last season, you sign a young promising striker from Syria who hasn't scored too many goals, but he's promising. Okay, you need another backup in there just to help out a bit. Most people say, okay, you're going to get probably more experienced player towards the end of his days. Maybe not the greatest of strikers, but somebody who can fill in the gaps. What do? Buy another young, inexperienced striker from the Serie A who hasn't scored many goals. And it just baffles me because I'm like, you've given one the number 9, one the number 11, so you want both these players to be starting. What positions? You know what I mean? Like, you're not playing both of them in the same system because you've got Mason Mount, who you want at the 10. You've got Bruno Fernandes, who you want at the 10. So where are you playing them? And it just baffles me as to their signings. And don't get me wrong, either Højlund or Xerxes by themselves is an okay signing. I don't think they're necessarily bad or good yet. I'd say Højlund's more bad because you can tell he's the type of striker you're expecting to score and he hasn't done that yet. With Xerxes, obviously, it's still really fresh. And I understand he disallowed that goal, but it's one of those, these things just happen sometimes. The issue with United in that match was turnovers. When you saw where Brighton were winning the ball compared to Man United, at least from my memory, Brighton were winning it higher up, whereas Man United were winning it lower back.
Yeah.
And I understand with United because they've got fast, pacey wingers playing that you might want that a bit, but at the same time, if you're sandwiched in all the time and your centre backs are consistently winning the ball, there's only so long that can last for until there will be chances. And when you're a team like Man United, who at the moment, even though yes they are the biggest team in England in my opinion, you look at it and you say, any team turns up to them and says, you know what, we can probably edge it, and that's true.
I mean, I liked the Brighton press last season. I feel like towards the second half of the season, the press wasn't overly there. They were kind of just trying to get the year over and done with, weren't they? As soon as they guaranteed safety, they were just prepared to just basically whack out all the kids and let them kind of have fun. But somebody that I thought had a very good game, in my opinion, was Billy Gilmour. I mean, years ago he was supposed to be this next upcoming midfielder, and yes, I think on the weekend we saw that he's actually got it in him to not run the show, but he's got the legs. Even though he's a very short man, he's ready to just run himself into the ground, and you can see the qualities there. It's just, I think you've got to do more running for James Milner, who's in his 60s almost. So I think, I don't know, Man United were poor, but I thought Brighton had a very good game themselves.
I completely agree with you. And Billy Gilmour is a player which started for me too, I would say. Because obviously he was a Chelsea boy and everything. Wasn't really getting the game time, so he left. And then at Brighton, he's taken his time to get into that starting 11 consistently. And I just think he is a very good, like, Europa League level player. Like, he's that guy who you'll get in that 7th, 8th, 6th spot, maybe 5th, and he'll be a solid player for you. Not top 4 level, in my opinion, but he's a good player for what he does. Because he'll run back, he'll win the ball, he'll challenge, he'll drive higher up. And he's not too gobby either, which I like. A lot of players who are like that, like John McGinn, you see they're just super gobby and you just hate him.
I see. I'm the opposite. I quite like John McGinn.
Yeah, because he's never played against freaking Derby.
Yes, he has.
Yeah, not properly in like a Premier League and cost you the league like he did with Arsenal last season.
He cost us promotion. He literally scored the goal against us to make it 2-0 in the playoff final.
Yeah, 2-0. You're already 1-0 down anyway.
Yeah, but we lost 2-1. If he doesn't score that, we draw 1-1.
I hate John McGinn.
And then we go to extra time and then penalties. So we hadn't missed a penalty that whole season. And we've been to 2 or 3 penalty shootouts against Man United and Southampton and didn't lose and didn't miss one. So,
as a roundup, I despise John McGinn.
He's a good bloke.
Oh, do you know him?
No, but you can
I don't
tell.
have an opinion on him, so
You're not allowed to. You're Italian.
Yeah, you are. He's Scottish. But
I don't think that there's anything else to add to that match.
That's what I was about to say.
Well, I mean, the only thing you can say is that, is it Hinselwood? He's the 4th generation to play for Brighton.
Oh yeah, I heard it. Yeah, his dad played.
His dad, his granddad, and his great granddad all played for Brighton, which I think is pretty cool. And
heritage.
Yeah, he's only 19, and I mean, I think he's one of those players that could either make it as like a lower end Premier League, or he needs to go out on loan to the Championship. Derby are calling for a left back right now, so if Brighton are listening at all, please send him our way. What's the next game? Because I mean, we've covered Man United, Brighton.
There's the 3:00 kickoffs.
Which ones are the boring ones? We don't need to talk about boring.
Let's talk about. I'll go for the first few, which are like the boring ones, which we can round up, and then a couple other.
I haven't watched any of them,
so
to be honest.
You're not allowed to. You can't watch
it's
games
illegal.
live.
It's illegal.
I'm just saying I haven't watched any of them.
We're not allowed to. So there was Palace 0, West Ham 2.
Bowen.
Which I think for Palace, it's shown how much they're missing Elise. I've been saying this, and don't get me wrong, this is not me disrespecting Eze at all. Elise ran the show for them. And without him, you can see how much they're hurting. Up top, regardless of the possession which they get up top, they just can't finish. And that's where the issue is, because they were, at least from the highlights which I've seen and everything, they were dominating for a lot of that match, and they just couldn't get it over the edge. And then, bang, West Ham score, and it changes the entire match. You have to be clinical, and they need a clinical player, which apparently they're looking to sign Eddie Nketiah, so I wouldn't mind if they take him off my hands.
Quite happy about that.
I'm very happy.
I know.
Then
Fulham Leicester
2-1.
Well, you skip past Palace there a bit, mate. I think going back onto the struggling to get goals, I think it's because you're setting up with a 5-back against West Ham. Just go for it. You've got 2 strikers and you're setting up with a 5-back with Eze. Just build your team around Eze and let him just do it for you. Because, I mean, Elise ran the show, but I don't rate Elise as highly as I rate Eze, in my opinion. I think Eze has got more of the... He kind of knows what's going on, whereas Elise just looked like he was zoned out all the time. When you score an absolute worldie and you just decide, I'm going to stand there and walk around, that's Elise for you.
But I love that. It's that French about him, man.
He's not French. He's from Reading.
He plays for the French national team, I have, you know.
Yeah, but he's not French.
I love it, man. It's that like, you know, Thierry Henry, when he scored, he was like, is that enough? Is that enough? I love it. I'm just there, I'm like, as long as it's not against my club, I friggin' love it. It's just like, how big are my balls? You know what I mean? Just showing them off to the Premier League. I love it.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I think you tried to skip past it, but Max Kilman for West Ham was a 40 to 50 million pound signing. Everybody thought it was going to be a bit too much money to spend on a centre half. Somebody that, I mean, struggled in a Wolves team, in my opinion, for the last few years, and he decided he's going to turn into the next Rio Ferdinand.
I thought he was good at Wolves last season. Personally, he was captain of Wolves too, and I think English player, because he's English, isn't he? Yeah. English player, 40 mil. At least he plays for the French team. But
he's never played for them, by the way.
He's played for the
world. He played for the Olympics.
Exactly.
Team. Doesn't count.
That doesn't count.
You're allowed to call senior players up too.
But that doesn't count.
Yeah,
he wouldn't be able to play for England anymore. I hope you know that.
Yeah,
okay.
If he really wanted
Again,
to.
it doesn't count.
Greenwood's playing for Jamaica all of a sudden, and he's made an appearance for England, so you can change. Swap sides, mate.
So, Fulham Leicester. Emile Smith-Rowe. My boy. My boy! I love it. It's... Obviously, I don't want to see him score against Arsenal or do too good because it'll make me even sadder, but I love it, man. I love it. Him and Iwobi, Arsenal heritage.
Just be objective, not subjective.
I said one of the opening lines in that first episode was, I am deluded but self-aware. And I stick to it.
I respect it. I think Smith-Rowe, the goal, the finish of it was unreal. Got no idea what James Justin is doing. He's turned around already before. He's gone past him barely, and he's just having a go at somebody else. But the finish is unreal. To say it's on his weak foot, cross the keeper, where I think he could have slid it across the goal as well if he really wanted to. But I think to say that people were saying it's he's a good player for the last few years, and obviously the Saka and Emile Smith-Rowe chant. And the thing is for me is that I feel like he wasn't given enough time in that Arteta system, in my opinion. I think you saw glimpses of how good he was, and because you've got all these higher quality players on paper, Smith-Rowe's just kind of shadowed out, in my opinion. He was
injured. Legitimately, like, he was injured for an entire season, because it was Martinelli injured for an entire season. Then it was Smith-Rowe injured for an entire season. And then when Smith-Rowe came back, he was getting injured again and again and again and again.
I've got a question for you. With the form that I think Martinelli's on, I would sod him off and I'd have kept Smith-Rowe, in my opinion.
See, I would have kept Martinelli because so far what we've seen from their peaks, I think Martinelli's peak has been higher.
I think Smith-Rowe's ceiling's higher, though. I think if in a system he's given a run of games, Smith-Rowe will be way better than Martinelli.
See, my issue with that is I think Smith-Rowe has proven that he's so injury prone.
Martinelli.
He will get injured this season at some point and he'll miss like 4 or 5 games at least.
How can you be so sure about that?
Because I've had him for years and I know my boy. I'm sad about it, but I know my boy. And it's one of those, that's why we sold him, because with Martinelli, yeah, at the moment he's looking like a player who's really, really down in the dumps. Like, he has no confidence at the moment, but if we can build that back up, he's then able to perform out of nowhere again, and we're getting prime Martinelli all over again. It's like, ooh, give me some of that. You know what I mean? But unless that happens, which we don't know if it will or won't, there's no saying what will happen. We don't know.
Well, I would like to move on to the part of where you've mentioned my boy Smith-Rowe, but then Iwobi, ex-Arsenal lad as well, and he's both scorers ex-Arsenal. What are you talking about Iwobi? Because I mean, I've always thought he was an overrated player to go to Everton for 40 million, and 40 million is absolute.
Thank you very much.
Daylight robbery. I think you can tell why Everton are down in the dumps at the moment as a club when you're making financial decisions like that. Whereas 40 million could literally buy you a whole championship-winning squad. In reality,
Well,
so. Explain your thoughts on Iwobi.
As an Arsenal fan, obviously I've seen a lot of Iwobi, and I was very happy for him to go, to be honest, because in my opinion, it just wasn't good enough for Arsenal. But obviously I remember that Europa League final where we got thumped 4-1. He was one of our standout players because he gave energy and he gave that commitment in there. The actual fact is Everton didn't want Iwobi at first. They wanted Reece Nelson, and we had the choice between either selling them Reece Nelson or Alex Iwobi, and Unai Emery, manager at the time, decided, no, we're going to keep Reece Nelson because he's a better player.
He is. Reece Nelson is an unreal footballer that I think needs to be given
more minutes,
which means he needs to go out either on loan or sold. And I think loan.
Saka got subbed off at the end of the last match.
Yeah, because Saka's very much not that kind of player that can drive against Digne.
Last season, that would not have happened. I can promise you that right now, which makes me believe he is going to get minutes. Whether that be because other clubs are interested in him, whatever, he's going to be getting minutes. And I can see that being the case. But obviously with Alex Iwobi, I think he's a good player, but he has hot flashes. Like even at Everton at one point, he had hot flashes. And it's one of those, in my opinion. It's like, unless you're going through menopause, I don't want to be seeing hot flashes. So what about
Fulham Leicester?
What about Leicester?
I'm a Derby fan, can't stand Leicester. I mean, Vardy, I love Vardy and his absolute poo-housery, but I still want to talk about Smith Rowe being subbed off for the best player in the Premier League, Harry Wilson. I don't think you guys will even know who the bloke is, but he's the best footballer ever. Derby fans, you'll know why.
I know him.
Who is he then?
Harry Wilson. He used to play for Liverpool.
He's a Leicester player.
He's a Fulham player,
It just makes the point that I don't know who he is.
Yeah, no. So Harry Wilson, I think.
Yeah, and he went on loan to you guys. I know my stuff about players.
Yeah, I mean, best player ever. So
not at all.
Yeah, but no, the Leicester team, they've basically built to get relegated, in my opinion. They know because of a points deduction that they are going to go down. Bringing in Bobby Reed is never exactly a great signing. That's not going to solidify your stay in the Premier League. I mean, next season, if they do get relegated, and Ndidi will go, Vestergaard will go, I don't know how you say his name, Fies, Justin, Harry Winks might stay. He's very meh. Fatawu, he's a half-decent player, to be fair to him.
I think half the issue is they know that point deduction's coming. 9 to 12 points is a hell of a lot to take. Any newly promoted team, I don't think would survive that. I think if we decided to take the time to look into every single season, I think that means every newly promoted team would be relegated. Minus 12 points.
But Leicester never really had to rebuild in the Championship. They kind of kept the core of the squad from a Premier League team, came down, walked the league, got promoted again. What have they sold? Dewsbury Hall, and I've always thought he's an overrated footballer. I think that for me, is it Stan Collimore's got a love for him for some reason, but he's the most overrated footballer in my opinion.
I think he's a good midfielder, but he's never that world-class midfielder.
Yeah,
like he can play as he's the good guy in there, he's decent and everything, but he'll never be, wow, Dewsbury Hall, did you see that from him? You know what I mean? Like, no, that's not going to be the case. Maybe in the Championship, that might be the case. But
in the Championship, it takes nothing to be classed as an absolute wildy of a player. When you think about it, you've got Mitrovic, who's scored 42 goals in a season. There's a reason why the Championship has got a level to it. You get relegated from the Premier League. If Forest were to get relegated this season, they would walk the league. If they lost Gibbs White as their best player, they'd still walk the league. If they lost
4 or 5 of their players, they'd still walk the league.
Yeah, they'd still walk it. But I mean, when you spend 600 million, I guess it's not too hard.
It's true. So, the next game, I think the one on at least my list, which I saw was Man City. Yeah, Man City, Ipswich. Same old Man City. Expected from Ipswich, to be honest. They went 1-0 up, and I was...
Yeah, I thought for those 20 minutes, no, even less than 20 minutes, I was like, oh, this is going to be a great game, and then boom, 4 goals. No. So I was just like, nah.
At least I had Haaland as captain.
Never poke a sleeping giant.
5 minutes until the penalty was scored. For 5 minutes, their dreams were alive. And it's one of those, I think, with City, it's expected. They're this team which are going to come in and roll over a lot of teams. For them, the slip-up points are teams like your Villas. I mean, not anymore, in my opinion, but like your Palaces, teams like that. The thing which really frustrated me, at least last season, which I hope doesn't happen again, is towards the end of the season, teams don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Like I saw
Talking
Arsenal
about
against
every single team or just
No,
the best?
every team.
Every team that's solidified their stay in the Premier League and they're not fighting for anything. They're already on the beach.
Well,
Yeah.
even teams that are fighting, like Villa last season, they were still technically at that point in the fight for top four. Other teams that could have potentially gotten it, they play Arsenal. They sweaty against us and win. I'm like, for goodness sake, I'm like, you better do that against City. They play against City and they second team them. It was a week later. I'm like, I'm not being funny, mate. You're first teaming against us and second teaming against City. What's going on there?
It's just Unai Emery doesn't like you. You guys shouldn't have.
You're still making statements about Arsenal.
I know. I can't help it. I want Unai Emery gone, but it's one of those. I think with City,
Boring City.
yeah.
You already know that as an Ipswich Town fan, you're going there. I said it yesterday, and I'll say it again today. I think if you're going to go to Man City away, you know that you're basically going to lose.
Taking scoring the goal.
Absolutely go for it.
I would have just taken scoring the goals as an Ipswich fan.
Well,
Newly promoted, you played Liverpool and City, and you scored against both. I'd take that.
they didn't
even if-
score against Liverpool,
Did they not?
I thought it was
Oh no, it's
2-0.
2-0. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
the reason that Ipswich
Shame.
will have any chance at staying up is because of Sammy Smodic, the guy that they just signed that scored against City. Top goal scorer in the Championship last season. Unreal footballer, but he's at an age now where you've got to basically be bagging in the Premier League at 28 years old. Just annoying that Ipswich couldn't get him in a few weeks earlier because he scored against us on the opening day of the Championship season, was Smodic. So we move. Delap, very good player against his old club. Cheers Ipswich for giving Derby some money for that kind of signing as well. I think Ipswich have got the basics of a very strong team, but a very strong Championship team. When you've got yourself an Amari Hutchinson who was absolutely
snake.
He was just terrifying
Snake.
to watch in the Championship last season. But you're watching him against a Man City, and the only thing I saw him do was head a ball away from the box.
I'm so glad. I hate the boy.
What, Amari Hutchinson?
Yeah.
Why?
What?
Arsenal academy boy left for Chelsea.
He wasn't Arsenal. I
Yes,
thought
he was. Search it
Chel-
up right now. He was an Arsenal
Oh,
academy
he
boy
was.
left for
He
Chelsea.
was. I thought he was Charlton for some reason.
Nah, I know my stuff about my boys, and but all jokes aside and everything, I hope he does well and everything. But it's one of those. I think Ipswich will stay up. Personally, in my opinion, I think there's three teams worse than them. Definitely from those opening matches. I mean, moving on to the next match actually to rest my point.
What's the next match?
Southampton, surely.
Southampton.
Southampton.
Nah, we're going to
Boring
Everton
team.
first. Everton get thumped 4-0 by Spurs. Spurs, who lost to Leicester. I'm going to try and keep that relevant. But
They didn't
drew.
lose.
They
They
drew
drew
1-1.
1-1.
They drew
1-1.
1-1 against
Yeah.
Leicester, yeah.
I thought it was 2-1.
No.
No.
Am I tripping?
Leicester
Yeah, you're
aren't-
tripping.
Leicester are not that good, man.
It's only Vardy that scored.
The Vardy tapping, mate.
They're tapping. There's no one.
That makes me so sad. But Everton, what the hell is going on with their back line? Is it injuries?
No, I think that they need a right back. Looking at that just from now, I think, who the hell is Dixon? I can't lie. I think Tarkowski proved he can be one of the best centre halves in the Premier League. I know that's a big statement, but to say that Everton were one of the teams that got they got quite a few clean sheets last year, didn't they?
Yeah, they were second.
For a team that were just trying to fight for survival. Keane, he needs to go. He's way past it.
For me, that's where my issue lies. Is last season the reason why they stayed up, and obviously in my predictions I didn't have Everton going down, but this is really worrying me. Is last season what kept them up was their defence. And in the first two games, they're on a -7 goal difference.
So I think that when they get Braithwaite back from injury, they should be fine on that side of the front because you'll have a Braithwaite, Tarkowski, and then is it Patterson their right back or is it it's Patterson?
Yeah.
So if they get Braithwaite and Patterson back, I think they will be fine defensively because that's two of your starting defenders from last season. And I think Keane's a very good player to bring on if you want to shore up and go to a 5-back, but we all know Sean Dyche will play 4-4-2, mate. So
For me, it's a worry. How long will it take? Will it be enough? Because in a relegation battle, which, let's be real, from these first couple of matches, it's clear that that's what they're in.
Yeah, but it's only been 2 matches still, so...
Yeah, you can never really judge anything by 2 matches. I think for a team like Everton, get to the 10th game week, and if you're still down there with a few points,
I would
be
usually
asking
agree
questions.
With you, but 2 games, -7 goal difference.
Yeah, but who did they play the first
Brighton.
game? Yeah, Brighton.
Tottenham. Brighton. These 2 good teams, don't get me wrong,
Brighton
but it's not like they played Arsenal and City first game of the season, or Liverpool, Arsenal, or Liverpool, City. They didn't play one of the top 4. They played teams of the top half.
No, I think Tottenham will be pushing for top 4 this season. I think when Solanke is back, there will be more than enough. There'll be more than enough in that team to get top 4.
They'll fight for it, but they won't get it.
I think they will, because I think Man United are going to struggle this season, as I think that you've made all these signings and you've not really convinced me enough. But the Everton team, I think that you've brought on 3 attackers and you've still not scored a goal in Iliman Ndiaye, who was an absolute monster at Sheffield United a few years ago, went to Marseille. I don't know really if he had a half-decent season. People could say that I'm not into football, but nobody really watches the French league. The fact
I don't know what you're talking about.
leagues, nobody watches that.
I mean,
Who wouldn't watch the French league?
Well, the French league is very much one of them where it doesn't get watched at all, to the point where I don't think they actually had anybody like a Sky Sports willing to just throw some money at them to just let them have a TV deal. So Iliman Ndiaye at Everton, very good player, but they're still not scoring goals. He's not setting anything up. Lindstrom, he's on loan, I believe, from, is it Frankfurt? On loan from Frankfurt. In any other Premier League side, you're like, what a signing. At Everton, you're like, well, you can't really do much when you're having to work with Dominic Calvert-Lewin up front. And then they brought on Beto, who I think has just been an absolute stinker of a signing.
I just think goals is such an issue for Everton. It's you've seen them in the past, and the players which have kept them up, obviously before these last couple of relegation scraps, was your Richarlisons, who, let's be honest, haven't been that good, and you Anthony Gordon's, who became actually quite a fair bit better. But when you're having those players come through and attacking players, and you can't keep on to them, that's a real issue. Because they're keeping Dominic Calvert-Lewin, but if he was bagging these goals, which Everton fans would want him to, he wouldn't be there anymore.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
think,
the issue.
in my opinion, with Everton, I think it's the lack of depth at their club. If you go through their squad, everybody's in their 30s basically, and half of them are injured. So if I was an Everton fan, I would be worrying if they didn't make any signings by Friday. I think that there's got to be 4 or 5. 2 of them or 3 of them have got to be first team.
I reckon
2 have got to be floaters.
I reckon they should put just another bid in for Eddie Nketiah. Go on. You know what I mean? He's the answer. He's the answer.
He's got to be going already, mate. He's got to be going.
My prayers.
I know you're an Arsenal fan. You're an Arsenal fan, so I think that you can't really talk much about Tottenham without a bit of hatred always coming through.
Oh my god!
Of course.
I think that you don't even talk about this when I say, but I think Heung-min Son's a very good player.
Yeah, I said that last week.
I know he cried last week. I wasn't in the video, but I did watch, and he cried about Heung-min Son. Good 2 finishers. I think that you already know what you're going to get with Heung-min Son. Romero, of course, just a bit of a solid defender, not amazing, but he does the job for what they're trying to aim for. Pedro Porro and I think Udogie got injured, so he had to come off. Mickey van der Ven, I don't know if anybody else saw the run he made from centre half, but oh my gosh, he drove through like the whole pitch on his own. Like, that man is speed. Talk about Lightning McQueen being speed. Van der Ven is speed. Bissouma coming back, good finish. I mean, very lucky that it didn't fly over the bar, but a way to absolutely make a statement of I'm literally back now, boys. I'm him. Bissouma does that and just smacks it top bins. Maddison, I think, as much as I don't like the bloke, I think he's a very good footballer that can basically control a game if he's on it. And I don't know if he did control the game, but I know for a fact that you're not going to be winning 4-0 and not having a half-decent impact in the game. I don't really know about Kulusevski. I've never really been sold on him. I think he's a meh kind of player.
Yeah.
He looks like he's always struggling to even run.
He's a good squad player. He's a good squad player for Spurs, and that's me being real. I mean, Maddison is the player who, on that Spurs team, I'll give my props to a bit. I think he's a really good creative player. I know he struggled towards the second half of last season, but so did the whole Spurs team.
But I think it's because when the Maddison injury really made his season last year go downhill, and that's where Tottenham kind of as a squad didn't know where their goals were going to come from. They didn't know where they were going to make goals, was because Maddison wasn't in the team. And you see that with a lot of squads. If what's it called? So a few years ago, about 5 or 6 years ago now, we thought as a I know I go back to Derby, so what? As a squad, we thought as fans we were like, wow, this is a very good team. Mason Mount, obviously, people have their opinions on him now. But at the time, he was a stupidly good Championship player. And as soon as Mason Mount got injured, I think it was like 11 games where we were like struggling to get any kind of goal. I think we barely scored any. And you're getting a goal from Dwayne Holmes, who nobody really rates because he's a meh kind of footballer. He's a good player because, I mean, I can say he's meh, but I mean, I would never get to his level. Obviously, if you're playing in the Championship, you can't be an absolute stinker of a footballer. But you lose your big key players, they're going to struggle.
Oh, yeah.
As a squad. And then they're going to struggle to come back and make that impact because they've been missing out on it.
Yeah, not only that, it's when the squad struggle while you're out because you're one of their star players, it takes a very, very special kind of player to be able to come into a team and just say, I'm here, guys. Let's keep on rolling like we were before. And that's no disrespect to James Maddison. It's like that would literally mean he's one of the best players in the world to be able to do that. With the amount of, I know people overuse the word, but the amount of aura he would have to need to do that is unreal. And I don't think he can do that. And that's no disrespect to him because, I mean, I can hardly name 5 players who I think would be able to do that in a team currently.
What, to be injured and then come back?
Yeah, come back. And then if their team was struggling, just be able to be like, guys, we're running again. Don't worry.
Odegaard for Arsenal. I mean, not to go back to Arsenal at all, but I think I'm not an Arsenal fan at all. I'm not a fan of most teams in the Premier League, but I think if
don't
Arsenal
you have an
lost,
Arsenal shirt?
Yeah, of course. I've got more than just a Derby top. But if Arsenal lost Odegaard, you'd struggle. I think we saw it last season when he wasn't in the squad. You struggled. It's the same with Man City. I feel like because they didn't have Gundogan, now they got him back all of a sudden. But when they lost Kevin De Bruyne, you're like, where are these goals going to come from?
Yeah.
And I think they kind of found a way because Pep always finds a way. He'll pull out some random Argentinian kid that they signed 7 years ago in the academy from like somewhere like Boca Juniors, and he'll start balling out for him. But go back to Tottenham, Everton, because I went on a bit of a tangent there. But
that's okay.
I think that the substitutions that you're making as a squad, if you're Tottenham, as a fan, your bench, you look at it and you are living the dream as a team that are pushing, I think, high. I think you're bringing on a Richarlison. People hate him. I think he's absolutely hilarious to watch play football.
For the good reasons or for the wrong reasons?
I think there's 50-50 because he can actually be an absolute stinker, but then there's times where you're just like, I love the Puhauser here right now. But
I despise it.
I think Pape Sarr's a very good midfielder, strong, solid, has the ceiling very high. Archie Gray, I don't know if you guys know him at all, but when you're getting the young player of the Championship at 17 years old, I think there's a reason why teams in the Premier League and all the top leagues across the world have looked at you, and you've chosen Tottenham because of the manager, because of his family being Celtic fans, and obviously Postecoglou was at Celtic, and Archie Gray I think is obviously going to be a very, very good player for Tottenham if he's used right. I don't like Jed Spence, he came on, but it's because he's ex-Forest. So.
Don't get me wrong, some of this is definitely because it's Spurs, but when footballers come up with these stupid excuses for why they did a transfer, like he's like, oh, my family are Celtic fans and he was the manager. Mate, any top Premier League team come in for you and you're going. Let's be real. If a Man United came in for him, he's going. If a Tottenham come in for him, he went. If a Chelsea come in for him, he's going. Any one of those boys come in and you go. From being at Leeds.
I don't know. I'm supposed to, on paper, dislike Leeds. And you know my stance on Leeds. I'm not a massive fan of them, but I think that if I'm Archie Gray, he's classed as a Leeds lad, his boyhood club. I think the draw for me to go away from Leeds would be a link like that. I think because I think he's 17, 18, and you're playing highest level realistically for an 18-year-old to be starting in the Championship week in, week out. I think is most kids' dreams. I think you can say about the Premier League, but to be 17 starting at your boyhood club is very rare, even in League One, League Two. Because, I mean, I know about League One, League Two, don't I?
But I mean, look at Jude Bellingham even, you know what I mean? Like, he was at his boyhood club for one season and left. It's, you can have all the intent in your world to, this is my boyhood club, I want to succeed there. But at the end of the day, I think sometimes, depending on what that club is, you've got to also look at your career. I mean, let's say, for example, like, you're an amazing footballer, really, really high ceiling, and you're a Derby supporter. No disrespect, but you're going to have to move on at some point. And in my opinion, sometimes, unfortunately, as much as I wish it wasn't this way, the sooner the better. Because now, the days of the Premier League where each team had one world-class player who just smack it from range, you'd be like, what just happened? Once every blue moon, that's gone now. And with that being gone, and that type of player being gone, there's no room for that, really. There's no Matt Letizia anymore.
Yeah, but I also think that, I mean, I'm not trying to brown-nose Leeds here or anything, but I think that Leeds are a massive club, and in reality, the difference between Archie Gray and Bellingham was the situation financially for their clubs. Bellingham at Birmingham was financially, Birmingham were screwed. They have been absolutely going through the mud the last few seasons. Obviously, this year they've spent like 20 million in League One because of the new American investors, but Leeds had the money and they had other players they could have sold if they needed money. I think that Archie Gray, in all honesty, could have stayed, and I think him going to Tottenham, in my opinion, is a very good transfer on the fact and on the side of that for him, he's going to develop under a different kind of manager than, is it Daniel Farke, who is the Leeds manager, who's an absolute awful manager. Leeds, you won't go up if you've got him as a manager. You've got the squad to go up, but you've not got the manager. You can have all the good players in the world, but if you've got a crap manager, you're not going anywhere. England, as an example, boys.
Anyway, I think moving on to the Aston Villa Arsenal match, Giorgio.
He was so excited to go, and
Of course.
I want to hear your opinion.
Wait, no, we missed out a match. We missed out Southampton Forest.
Oh,
I mean, I'm only saying this because then you can. I'm only saying
I know. Don't worry.
So that you can then absolutely go crazy about your little Arsenal fanboy crush. I mean, Forest, Southampton, good finish by Gibbs White, good player, very solid.
A good performance by Forest again. I know it's only Southampton, so we can't base too much on that. No disrespect to Southampton, but newly promoted side, one of the favourites to go down in most people's predictions. Yeah. So I think decent performance overall from Forest. Only thing I'd say is similar thing to Palace. They need to be careful with those chances against another opposition. That game could have turned on its head.
Oh yeah,
they're dominating for so long, and then if a team scores the other way, that changes the complexion completely. But they did really well to get it over the line.
I think Forest were just unlucky when you have 23 shots and expected goal of 2.5. Yeah. I think you've got to be doing a bit more than that, I think, to basically solidify Premier League football next season.
Of course you're going to say that, Derby fan.
What, solidify?
No, just basically saying Forest need to do better, even though they've won.
How were you on all about?
No, because
Tottenham 5 minutes ago.
I'm aware about that.
No, but I mean, I don't think any football club should be having 23 shots and only scoring one goal from 23.
I agree with you.
There's conversion rate.
There's issues there, and I'm sure Nuno will be looking at that.
I don't know why they made him their manager, but
it seems like a decent appointment at the moment.
Yeah,
kept them up this season. Some good transfers and everything. Anyway, Aston Villa 0, Arsenal 2. Giorgio, I'll let you go first, and
I think it was a brilliant match.
Me up.
Not gonna lie, I thought we'll watch it together. I thought it was great, and bringing up Trossard was good. I mean, like how? So when did he come on?
It was his first touch.
Yeah, exactly. Like first touch, score. It was great. Aston Villa played a good match anyway,
Yeah.
but overall, Arsenal are playing quite well.
Do you not believe that? I think Onana is going to be one of the best midfielders in the Premier League this season.
No.
Have you seen how? Did you not see how much of a monster he was in that midfield?
He was doing really well, but for me, I think, what's his name? Let me pull it up.
Mate, if he would walk into that Arsenal side, in my opinion, he would walk in over Partey or Timber.
No, the player who I was really, really impressed with was Morgan friggin' Rogers,
Yeah,
man.
he's a very good player.
He rinsed Partey and Declan Rice in one move.
Both on the
And I was like, oh, because I don't see that often. Thank goodness that we have that monster back line that we do just to try and stop him.
Who was it that was like through on goal for Villa? And you just got Saliba that had like 15 yards behind the ball and he still gets back.
Jacob Ramsey.
Yeah, no.
He was one on
Jacob
one.
Ramsey's supposed to be a young, quick player.
He
and
is.
you got Saliba who's just flying back.
It was unreal. I freaking love Saliba.
What a player.
I love him. He's a monster at the back. This match was something I went into very worried about because obviously
After like how many times have they lost against Villa? 5 times in the past matches. That's what I'm thinking about.
obviously we beat them once a couple seasons ago, but last season we lost 2 times.
2 times, yeah.
And they're just a team which we really do struggle against. So I came into this thinking we need to win because
He was quite stressed. I saw him, he was quite stressed. But
for me last season, I look at it and I don't think a lot of people say, the City draw is where we lost the league. No, it was against Villa. We lost twice against them. And this is why it was so huge for me. It was like, Villa away, we need to get something and we need to prove that, hey, we're here, we're the big boys. Pack up Villa. Shush for a minute, yeah. It's our story, not yours.
what did you think about Thomas Partey? Because you were quite stressed about him.
I'm not the biggest fan. I'm not the biggest
want him
fan.
to play, and then he scored a goal.
I'm not the biggest fan of Thomas Partey because for me, I think he's not press resistant.
Okay.
For me, Thomas Partey is the player I'm worried about. When we had our first title charge, for me, where we started that spiral of when we did bottle it, was against West Ham. And obviously, Declan Rice was the player who took it off of him for that first goal against West Ham, and it changed the entire match. As soon as that happened, everyone was like, crap, are we going to fumble here? And lo and behold, we fumbled. So for me, I get worried about him being there in that pivot, but I just want to take a moment, and I've heard nobody else talk about him, Jurrien Timber. He looked like he'd been playing in that midfield, like alongside Thomas Partey for years, let alone being a left back. He just came in as that inverted fullback, was able to dribble past people, help break the line a little bit, pass it on, and defensively solid too. Because Leon Bailey, obviously we've seen him in the past, and he's been really, really fast, really breaking in, especially with Zinchenko there, on lock. And I loved it. Every second of it. Really, really strong performance from us. And the reason why I say that is Villa didn't play badly.
Yeah, that's what I said. They played quite well.
Exactly. And it takes a good team to beat another top team which plays well. And that's what I'm happy about. It's not just beating teams when, Villa had a poor day, you know what I mean? Watkins, Bailey, McGinn and Tielemans were all injured, you know what I mean? It wasn't any of that. It was their first team. They're ready. They're coming. They know what's happening. And we still come up and perform. I think, obviously, as we mentioned with Elise, with his little lack of celebration, I loved it from Trossard. It was moody. It was, why the hell aren't you starting me, man? I'm scoring them goals for you. I am that guy right now.
I mean, I've thought that since he signed. I thought when he signed from Brighton, the form he was on, he should have been in that starting lineup week in, week out. He proves it constantly, in my opinion, that he's one of your best attacking players. He's direct. He's not scared to take anybody on in the world. And I think his quality basically speaks for itself. I think the finish is very easy to either scuff it. I think he does scuff it a little bit, but
it's just the composure. He just puts it away. He's just like, okay,
as you saw with the Odegaard, absolute screamer of a miss.
Oh yeah,
freaking hits it miles over the bar. You're thinking that could have technically also been Trossard if he's leaning back, but no, Trossard again. Ole.
Yes.
I like the chant. I like that kind of chant, but I don't like Trossard or Arsenal. I just think he's a good player. I
like Trossard.
I think, of course you do. Of course you do. I think Villa, if you're a Villa fan, you're going to feel very hard done by, because I think that you guys had a game plan and I think you stuck to it very well as a squad. I think if you're needing goals late on, you need better substitutions. You can't bring on Ross Barkley and expect goals. He did very well in a Luton side because you can look like an absolute wildy player in a team that's built for the Championship / League One. I think Maatsen, he's got something to prove this season after the absolute stormer he had against Real Madrid in the Champions League final. So
I think
I'll be watching out for him.
The question for me in that team, Ollie Watkins, these past couple of matches, obviously it's only 2 games in, but he's looking not as sharp as he was last season at all. Like, let's be real, that chance he had, which, in my opinion, it was a foul. I understand other people disagree with me, perfectly fine. I've admitted I'm deluded, but I'm self-aware about it. But I look at that and I think, how are you missing that? I'd be screaming if he missed. And with Watkins' quality, he should be scoring there. He's one of the top finishers in the league. At least he was last season.
I will interject with why I believe he looks very much not in the game as much, because if you're a fan of a team that has seen players go out internationally, but they don't go out that often with the international squad, they're not used to it as a player. And obviously he had the highs of getting us to, the semi-finals?
Yeah.
So you've gone from playing absolute hoofball with it wasn't hoofball, but it wasn't exactly football, was it? Watching Southgate ball during the Euros. So you've gone from that to then having to play retaining possession, having no break over the summer really. So he's not had that chance to let his body recover for the few weeks that other players have had. Like Leon Bailey, did Leon Bailey get that rest? Probably. Pau Torres.
I think he probably did go to CONCACAF. Is it CONCACAF which they go to, or is it just
I don't know.
No, it's Copa America, isn't it?
I've got no idea.
But
Copa America, did that happen with
yeah,
because was it Messi?
Messi won. Yeah,
of course it did.
What's called? But Giorgio, what's your opinion on obviously you guys at Inter Milan, you have a top level striker in Lautaro Martinez. What's your opinion on Ollie Watkins as a striker then, as someone who's been blessed with really nice strikers?
No, I totally agree with you guys. I think what George was saying about him going to the Euros, he didn't have that rest. But I think going on from last season, he had a good season, and even if he missed, like what you were saying, it just maybe give him some time this season to go a little bit, more into it and understand what, I don't know, but
my question would be, do you think he's ready for the demands of both Champions League, international, and Premier League football?
I don't know, actually. That's a good question. Probably yes. I think I don't know how well he's gonna be, but I think his mentality is there. I think he's ready for it. But we'll see when Champions League starts, and then we'll make our assumptions and our judgment there. But I think his mentality is there. I think he's ready to go into more, international football. He's been a footballer for England this past summer, so I think he's had the experience on playing more than just Aston Villa, if it makes sense. So I think he's quite ready. Hopefully.
I don't think the Villa squad is. I think.
Well, I was talking about just him, but what do you think?
Yeah,
just Ollie Watkins.
Oh, Ollie Watkins. I don't think he's got it in him. Not to just counter you. I just think that you saw Villa last season. They struggled in the Carabao Cup version of the Europa League, in the kind of the nothing
League, yeah.
Conference League,
the nothing European league. And Villa struggled, and it's not like Watkins contributed. They've not got the depth as a squad, and I think that Watkins will have to start. So that means throughout the season, he's just going to look knackered and shattered all year, because he's not going to have these little breaks, because he will go away with England. Or you'd be stupid to not take him or Morgan Rogers with you to England. And I think he just, honestly, the bloke just needs a few weeks off, in my opinion. I think if you're a Villa fan, you take 3 weeks with him not playing for you, just for him to have a rest.
But wouldn't you say those are the demands of a top-level striker like an Ollie Watkins now? He's expected to be able to play every 3 days, almost all the time. Obviously, for England, he's got that privilege of being the substitute.
If he doesn't do it now, when will he do it?
I think one good season in the Premier League in very few seasons isn't enough to say he's a top-level striker, in my opinion. I think he's a very good striker, but he's not, in my opinion, I don't think he's expected to be scoring a goal every game. Whereas if you
no, he's definitely not. But I mean, for Villa, when you see him up top, you know, I've got to be prepared here. You know what I mean? Like he's I think when you look at that Villa team, he is the guy up top. You're there and you're like, okay, if I'm a defender, because obviously that's a position which I usually play as, he'll be the guy who I'd be doing my research on. He'll be the guy who I'm like, I need to switch on about him. Nobody else, him. And I think when you're that player for a team, when you're the talisman, which is what he is, you have to be able to play like that, especially for the aspirations Aston Villa have as a club. They're looking to not just be, oh, well, we finished fourth once. They're looking to, okay, we're challenging for 4 every season. That's what they're looking to do, and I think, obviously, that's a very difficult task. Look at what happened with Newcastle last season. And I think, obviously, for me, the reason why they're not in my top 4 is I think it will be kind of similar. If Ollie Watkins gets injured with too many matches, who do they really have up top who's clinical like him?
Duran. He's a good player, but he's not...
Exactly. He's no Watkins.
Yeah, I mean, what has he scored like? He scored a goal or 2 against City last year or something stupid. That's, I think, his only contribution to the season. I think we move on to your little Calafiori. I think.
Oh my god! It was unreal for those 10 minutes. He was so good.
Honestly,
I was so happy when he came in, and I was just I was the happiest.
He was screaming the entire match. He was like Calafiori, 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 and then immediately when he gets subbed on, he went yes, like as if we scored a goal. I was like, what?
Yes, he played very, very well.
I don't think he had anything to do, did he?
No, he didn't have anything to do.
I don't care.
He made he did absolutely.
He made like 2 challenges.
No, he munted Martinez.
Yeah, he did.
Absolutely killed Emi Martinez, which I thought was
that's
very
enough.
good.
That's enough for me. Yeah,
I think I rated Calafiori last season because he was getting 7s to 8s out of 10s week in, week out as a 21-year-old centre half in Bologna.
Yeah,
I don't think you really do that. It doesn't go unnoticed. You get 5 assists and 3 goals in a season as a centre half. I think
my issue with him is that I hope that he's going to get the time to play in Arsenal, like. Because with, of course, Arsenal being a top team, Bologna hasn't been a top team for like 40 years. Of course, they've been unreal in Serie A. It's not like, I mean, Serie A is not as good as the Premier League. But I think if he finds the time, then he's going to grow a lot, and he's gonna be great. Like
it's the way I see it is it's smart giving him these little flashes because obviously with where Arsenal are at the moment, we're expected to win every match. If he makes a mistake and that costs us 2 points even, it's an awful lot of pressure on him. So I'm really glad that you're getting that break. But I think it's very clear that he will be that left back because with Arteta, he likes right foot's on the right, left foot's on the left, and Timber's right footed, and he's starting these big matches at the moment.
But
so
I hope that he has the chance to start from minute 1 in the next at least 5 matches. I'll give him 5 matches to start.
Yeah, because obviously we've got Brighton and then we've got freaking Tottenham and then City. So.
Exactly. So I mean, he's not going to start these 3 matches, but yeah, hopefully
if he does, hopefully he plays
he'll
well.
have the space to play. Cause
would you play him at left back?
Yeah.
Would you play him as? Because I think the fact that he proved last season in the Serie A in a bit of a nothing side compared to your Inters, your ACs, your Juventus, he gets 5 assists from centre back. You'd play him at left. You'd play him at left wing back, wouldn't you? Something like that.
I'd play him at left back in the Serie A. He was playing as like a, you know how John Stones was playing as an inverted centre back, like drifting into the midfield, drifting even higher. That's what he was doing. But I think with Arsenal, he can do that from left back. He really can, and as long as he gets back, which is what I think he's definitely able to do, at least from what I saw with him for Italy in the Euros, because I'm not going to lie, I don't watch the Serie A. I've never seen him play for Bologna. I only saw him at the Euros, and I thought he's a quality player. And then I saw the links with Arsenal. I was like, "Oh, get it, go on." And
it's a good centre half.
And
good.
I really hope it comes through for him because what he did for Italy, I thought was really important. And
he was the best player for Italy, and Italy sucked for like 4 matches. How long did they play for? 4 matches, yeah.
The biggest thing for me was he doesn't just add to the defense; he adds to the attack.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously in pre-season he came on and he was just sliding in, and it was in their own half. He was just sliding in on people, and he was winning the ball, which I was like, oh, I don't want to see you do that in the Prem too much because that'll scare me. But seeing him being able to do that, I was like, wow, okay, he's able to win the ball back high up, be aggressive, and from what I saw in the Euros, when he can drive, I think that adds a lot for your attack, because then you're not just having to worry about, oh, okay, well, Zinchenko's still just going to sit next to Partey, or Timber's going to sit next to Partey. It's like, no, he'll run into the box if you give him a chance, and he'll shoot, and he has a good chance of scoring too. So it's like, you get worried about him, and then he's 6 foot odd, isn't he? He's F off tall. He's just this big Italian man. You know what I mean? And you just see him, whenever I see him, I swear, he just tucks his hair behind his ear every time. It's like, mate, chill out. But, unfortunately, moving on from the Arsenal, Newcastle Bournemouth.
Controversial in the final minute. I think standard performance from Bournemouth, giving you a goal. There's one player in that Bournemouth side that I could tell you why I'm in love with, and that's Antoine Semenyo. I don't know if you know him. Absolute monster of a man.
I love him. 24
years old, and you trust him up front. I think for most teams, quick, fast, strong. His touch,
that right.
His touch is
so
unreal.
So good. Last season, I mean, a lot of people. I mean, I had Semenyo in my fantasy team, so I know what he was able to rack in a bit. He is genuinely a really, really tricky forward to be up against, and I think with Evan Nielsen, the striker they signed from Porto, he obviously, with Arsenal playing Porto last season, he looks like he's a good striker, and he'll score some goals. Don't get me wrong, I don't think he's a Solanke, but he's a good enough striker, I think. He'll do a good job in there. I mean, my big points from it were, from that match, obviously, saying that that's a handball. At least from the clear angle, which you can see on the telly, it looks like his head's down here by his arm, and it either hits his head or his shoulder. It's not below the shirt line or anything like that, so it's no handball for me.
It looks more like a head-to-head collision or something than it actually is a handball.
Yeah, because you can see from the power it gets immediately.
It's just an awful decision, in my opinion. I think that it's woke nonsense.
But
I think Newcastle lined up very well. I think Big Dan Burn, of course.
Go on.
I think Kelly, playing against his former side, against Bournemouth, obviously you've got to sub him off no matter what. You can't leave on a player for a whole 90 minutes against their former side. Anthony Gordon showing that he can just do the business as usual. I think Newcastle are missing the centre half. Obviously
they've got someone suspended, isn't it? They've got
a Kraft at the back of all players. So
it's because of suspension, stuff like that. And I mean, with Newcastle, I was expecting to hit the ground running a little bit quicker, to be honest, because obviously no Champions League is a huge weight off their shoulders. But I think that'll kind of carry through as the season goes on. Isak hasn't had too much for him, but I mean, watching the match, he wasn't really getting fed too much. There was times when I think it was Longstaff. He just screamed at him because they were both running up through the middle. If he'd have played him in, literally he could bang it from there. Knowing Isak, he would bang it and he would score. And he doesn't pass it to him. Instead, he drives and runs straight into the defender. And he's just like, "What are you doing?" Like, just screaming at him. And I don't blame him. Like, if you're that guy, that's your job. I'm annoyed because you're not letting me do my job. And
I know I cut you off.
Don't worry.
I think for time-wise, I think we can leave Newcastle almost there. I think if you're a Newcastle fan, be a little bit worried that you've got no centre-halves until January, basically. Botman and Lascelles being injured until around January time. Shah's obviously suspended, but
he'll be back. He's good.
Not Botman. Dan Burn's been a left full-back all last season. So
I'd play Dan Burn there for the meantime. Obviously not ideal, but I think he's good enough to carry you through until January.
I think otherwise, but I believe that both teams aren't going down. We know that for a fact. Both sets of fans don't have to be scared about relegation. Just be cautious that you're not going to have overly amazing seasons if you're a Newcastle fan.
Oh, I think they will.
I think they just need to wait until you get your Tonali's back.
How long has he got before he comes back?
I think it's January-ish.
It's
next month, I think.
September.
Yeah, I don't think that was that long.
I don't know. It's before January, but I think that they need to invest still instead of buying. I don't know. They were involved in some dodgy business, weren't they, Newcastle?
Yeah, alongside. Great segue. Alongside Chelsea. The Chelsea Wolves match.
Oh my goodness.
Cold Palmer, mate.
He's unreal. I'm sorry. I think he's just so good.
honestly,
The cheek of his finish is unreal.
I
to just
despise
dink it.
Cole Palmer. I'll be real. I hate him. Just everything about him.
But
But Noni Madueke, I've said for a while now, it was a couple seasons back, I think. He scored against Arsenal. We still won anyway, but he scored. And actually, I had to put that in. I had to. But I
you
saw him.
think he's
And
an Arsenal fan?
No, got no idea if he's an Arsenal fan or not, to be fair.
honestly, Arsenal, I've never really heard of him too much. But
A bit of a nothing.
Henry,
club,
Henry.
really.
Who is he?
But for me, I think he's a good winger with promise. I don't think he's that world class winger or the world class forward or whatever.
Yet.
No, not even yet. I don't think he is. But he's good. He can play alongside him in the top
Madueke.
team. Yeah.
Madueke.
Madueke.
Yeah.
I'm saying he's not a world class forward, but he's that good one who can still start alongside world class players
Oh, he'll get there.
and perform.
Don't you worry. He will be that world class
But
player.
the disrespect he gave Wolves. Did you see his Instagram
Oh
story?
yeah, it was quite entertaining.
Oh my word.
And then after like 2 minutes, oh sorry, wrong account.
And then he
Bollocks, mate.
backs it up too. He
Oh.
backs it up by banging it. Scores a hat trick. Did you see during his apology?
What?
He was saying he's sorry during like his interview and he was laughing. he was giggling to himself. He was holding the match ball, you know what I mean? I'd be giggling too. I'm like, mate, I don't care. I just scored a hat trick here. If you don't score a hat trick, or you lose, or you draw, but when you win by that much, you're chilling.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Madueke, my opinion, will be one of the better players in the Prem the next few seasons. I think
Very good player.
I think the fact that he had the balls, unlike a lot of younger English youth players, he went out to the Netherlands to get first team football, to then develop as a player, became one of the best players in the Eredivisie, then decides, you know what, now's the time, I'll come back over to England. Had a bit of a stinker last season, but it's the adjustment period. Darwin Núñez still going through the period, bless him. But, I think
His life, bro. Darwin Núñez, it's his life.
I think everybody's seen the adjustment period with Premier League football from international. Just English football in general is a different game. You see it with most levels of the English pyramid, that if a player comes over from overseas, they're going to struggle because the pace over here is so much higher. And you don't think about it. Like Derby just signed a 6'6" Swedish goalkeeper, where unreal in the Swedish league. It comes over to England and he's lost the ball a few times because he's not used to having no time on the ball. Whereas in Sweden, you get all this time on the ball. Whereas in like the Netherlands, I guarantee it's a bit easier for you.
It's one of those. I think he was just ahead of the curve. You look at a lot of teams now, and they're looking to sign players from the Netherlands. Obviously, Arsenal signed Jurriën Timber last season. Liverpool have signed players, obviously from like Netherlands, i.e. like Virgil van Dijk, for example. They've got that manager Arne Slot from there, and a lot of teams now are looking at recruit from there because from a young level, they're expected to be able to just have that touch, have that pass. Their ability on the ball is so good. And with the way football's developing, at least in England, that technical ability is required. It's a necessity.
Yeah.
So I think it's something which he maybe was ahead of the curve. I don't think he knew anything about it. He just wanted to play minutes, and that's the important thing with any footballer. Wanting to play, having that desire, that hunger. He did it, and now he's back and he's banking goals. So's Cole Palmer. João Felix, first match back.
I mean, I never rated Felix when he was at Chelsea last time. I think, didn't he cost him like $1 million for the red card he got in his first game? He cost him some stupid money because he got a red card in his first game of the loan. And you're like, as a Chelsea fan, you'd be fuming because he's supposed to come in and save your club. But good finish, unreal finish actually. Was it a first time touch or did he have time?
I think it was first time.
It was an unreal finish though. I think Pedro Neto, second game in a Chelsea shirt against his former club.
First start.
He didn't start, did he? He came on at half time.
I thought he started.
No,
Oh,
he came on at half time.
came on half time.
Oh,
that's because you never noticed Mudryk playing for him. But
and Kunku, I think he's finally decided he's not going to be injured anymore. Dewsbury Hall, I think he got a few minutes. Nothing really special. If you're anything else other than Cole Palmer or Madueke, you're not going to be spoken about from that game.
yeah, let's be real. Those two are the stars of the show, and hats off to Chelsea. As much as I hate them and I wish that didn't happen, and I was looking at that match open, they were losing. I'm seeing when Wolves were up, I was like, oh, get in. And then I see
from
4, 5, 6, and I'm like, oh, crap.
Yeah,
man.
from the first half, I thought that Wolves could actually win it, and then 4 goals in the second half, I was like, yeah. No.
Wolves need to strengthen though. From that side, from the side I'm looking at right now, you look at that and you're like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 starting players. You need.
But the
to
issue with the
strengthen.
Wolves is it's their money. They can't spend. They have to sell everyone, which is why Kilman left. It's literally, if you see a Wolves player who you're like, oh, I fancy him, you come in, you can sign him. It's why Lopetegui left.
Where did all the money go?
I don't know.
I thought they had money. They spent.
They're just
on the
bust.
Championship.
Yeah, they're just bust at the moment, I think. And they're unable to spend, which is why they've got Gary O'Neill. But I think Gary O'Neill is such a good manager.
I think talking about teams that aren't able to spend is Liverpool. I think that's a very good segue, in my opinion.
Oh, that's an extremely good segue.
Liverpool do not spend money, in my opinion, and I think they need to. I think they
agree.
won 2-0, obviously, against Brentford, but Brentford aren't going to be your world beaters when you're...
Well, it was.
They did.
See, this is the thing which I've noticed about Liverpool. Obviously, Diaz scored fairly early on, but with it being 1-0 for so long, Brentford had a fair set of chances, if you ask me. And that's even what I noticed when they were up against Ipswich. You get chances against this Liverpool team at the moment, and I think if you're able to capitalise upon that, you could really turn them over. And I think against the top teams this season, I think Liverpool might suffer a bit. I still think they're going to get third place overall because I think, look at what they're doing to these lower teams, and that's what matters when you get in top 4. But some of these top teams, they're going to be some difficult moments, very difficult moments.
Well, I think Liverpool, in my opinion, struggled. I mean, I think that they've got the mindset of Dutch football where it's just retain the ball. Don't make the hard pass, make the easy pass because we need to just keep possession. As a counter-attacking side, their first goal, unreal kind of break. It takes 2 players to get them from their own box to scoring a goal. I think the finish for Diaz last season, he wouldn't have scored that, so I think it took some bottle for him to actually put it on his left foot.
Yeah.
And no placement, just hit it as hard as you can, head down with it. Good goal. I didn't actually see the Salah one, but Salah.
Yeah, I saw it. I was watching it. I was there. And I was like,
it's just Salah. Salah will score.
It was
goals.
annoying. I was just there. And I was like, oh, I wanted something spicy to happen in the match. Maybe make it 1-1, a little bit of drama later on, and then he scores and makes it 2-0, and it's like a boring finish to the match.
I think you as a Brentford fan, before the game even starts, you know you're going to struggle without a striker. They didn't start with an out and out number 9. I think Tony needs to kind of make his ideas right and just kind of go with either I'm going to stick at Brentford or we're going. Make the decision.
Well, I mean, apparently the issue with Tony is, have you heard about how much money he wants?
It's probably not even him. It's probably Brentford wanting so much money.
He wants 250k a season, apparently.
Can't.
That's the rumours. Which for Tony, he can't be asking for that much.
Yeah, no, his age as well. He's not exactly spring chicken. He's a bit old.
I mean, when I look at Liverpool at the moment, I mean, I'll be interested to hear your opinion, Giorgio, being the international man of the podcast. But
playing Italian style of football.
Their transfer strategy is just bizarre to me. I look at it and I think,
what are you talking about?
Liverpool.
Liverpool, yeah.
Consistently, they go in for one player. They're prepared to spend big money, potentially, on this big player. They want Jude Bellingham. Jude Bellingham's like, no. And they're like, okay, no worries. They don't go for anyone else who's of that same profile. Last season, they go for Moise Caicedo. Oh yeah, here's the money. Nah, I want to go to Chelsea instead. Okay, don't sign anyone. And then this season, who was it that they went in for big money and they said no? Zubamendi. They go in for. It wasn't big money or anything.
He's an awful player. They should have never gone in for him. My opinion, Zubamendi. Have you ever heard of him?
No. I don't know.
He played at the Euros. He played well. He plays for Real Sociedad. He plays well there.
He played at the Euros. I'd have gone in for Fabian Ruiz over that Zubamendi guy.
Yeah,
that
but
guy was balling out.
It's one of those, people don't necessarily look at the Euros. They look at him in the league, and he's been very important in the league for Real Sociedad. However,
Sociedad.
I think you said that.
Yeah, no. But you said the name Sociedad, and you're like, well, that's why I wouldn't be spending big on a player that's important for a team like that. That's like a Ross Barkley signing for you.
It's not super big. They're only spending 60 mil, which nowadays
60. Yeah, no.
Which these days, George, you have to understand.
They've got very lucky there.
60 mil is not huge money anymore.
You're
unfortunately,
having your trousers pulled down. 60 million for a midfielder that, in my opinion, doesn't get in over McAllister or Gravenberch.
Well, it's in my opinion, you need that 6, and Zubamendi's that 6, and then you either play McAllister and Szoboszlai or McAllister and Gravenberch. However,
I'd play Endo.
My issue is they go in and their transfer strategy is, we've got this one player we want. If we don't get him, we don't get anyone. And I think you look at that. If that was the case for other teams, look at Arsenal. And obviously I will go to Arsenal because I know the most about them.
Yeah.
We go for Mudryk. Thank goodness we didn't get him. But we go for we get Trossard in the end. Who won us the game against Villa? Trossard.
You never know if Mudryk could have developed differently because Arteta actually has a style of football,
Yeah.
whereas Pochettino looked like he had no idea what he was doing. Bless him.
It's one of those. It was a tough situation he came into.
But
However,
the amount of money, I think
Yeah.
as an Arsenal fan, you're glad that you didn't sign him.
yeah, I agree.
So-
But I look at it and I just think, if I'm there thinking about okay, this, that, or the other, or what's signing, you look at Liverpool and it's the strategy is not a modern strategy. A modern strategy would be, okay, we want this player, we're prepared to sign him, we're putting the money where our mouths are, but if that doesn't work out, we've got 2, 3, 4 people who all can fit that profile and position. Because my question is, what the hell are their scouts doing? You know what I mean? All year they're all just watching this one player.
Stealing.
All of them. Literally.
I'll tell you the way that. So obviously, Derby fan. So our transfer strategy is a bit different. So but our manager said that Paul Warne basically came out and said you've got a list of 10 strikers that you want. The top 3 championship quality. The bottom 3 are League One, but top League One, and then the in between is kind of stuff that you'd settle for. And one person, somebody at the top of the list, goes to like, say, I mean, I don't know if it is, but goes to Bristol City. Then you're like, okay, second on the list. Then it just kind of whittles down, and you keep trying to interview each of them. But you don't know with Liverpool, they're very much play their cards close to the chest. They don't like to have everything kind of out there, which as a fan I prefer, because as a Derby fan we signed some random guy from Wolves on loan today, never heard of him, but it's like it's more of a surprise, whereas everybody else these days with being a big football fan, you kind of like, well, Fabrizio Romano said it's 7 weeks ago, so he's already signed for us.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, as a Liverpool fan, you don't really have that. You get the surprise, like opening a Kinder Egg and seeing some absolute world of a
See,
toy.
the thing is with Liverpool is my point is, you still see it all, but it's just they don't do as much, which is my issue. Is they're a big team, huge team, but because you don't see it, it's not happening. Because in this day and age, with being a big team, you would see it. That's the truth of it. It's, you know what I mean? It's like seeing a meteorite in the sky heading straight towards you. You're gonna see it. It might take a while, you know what I mean? But you're going to see it at some point, and it's not like it just pops out of nowhere. And I think with Liverpool, that's where my issue lies, is it just seems like a really narrow transfer strategy. What do you think about it, though, Giorgio?
No, I think they've got a really good team, and what they have so far, they've done brilliantly. Like, look at the team that they have, like Van Dijk at the back, then McAllister, Salah. Like, they've done really well, and they are, internationally quality players, right? So I don't think that there's really a necessity for signings for like this kind of time, like this period of time. But like if they keep going like this for like 3 more years, I think they will struggle.
I agree.
And looking on the other side, like there's Chelsea there has got loads of signings, and my thought is like, well, they don't really give anybody the opportunity to sign any players, because Chelsea has signed everybody. So
I think it's one of those. It's if you're not improving, you're regressing. And
Yeah.
I think with this Liverpool squad, that's what you're seeing. Salah's only getting older.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like if you don't change in the next couple of years, then you're gonna struggle.
You're going to lose your Salah. You're going to lose your Van Dijk. You're going to lose Trent, and then you know what I mean. Then you're in a very difficult situation.
But they've only. So, what did you say?
No, you keep going.
No,
I heard you say Joe Allen there.
It's kind of, you go back to like the regression stage of where Liverpool had their starting lineup of just kids.
Europa.
Yeah.
You're like, what is going on?
But they-
Welsh Perlo.
they've just signed. They've just signed a new manager. Like Klopp has left after a long time. So I think that by the time that the end of the year, the new manager settles. Hopefully he does well. They don't sack him after like a season. I think that the next season, but they might sign a couple new players, because they need to. That's what my point was. But I think that they're okay with what they have right now.
I think the other thing was with the Euros. Arne Slot, I think himself said, he was waiting until a certain deadline, and then they would start looking at more players after they'd done a hefty part of their pre-season. I don't know if that was the greatest strategy, because I understand he's not had loads of time with the players and everything. They've been at the Euros, that sort of stuff, so he's got to give them their time and everything. But he's very lucky the situation that he's in because everyone's expecting top 4, and that's it.
No, you can't be expecting top 4. It's like every single squad. It took Klopp years to actually build a squad. I mean, I'm not saying that he has the same level of defenders because Klopp started out with like Skirtle at the back and Slot starting out with Van Dijk. There's levels to the game there, but I still think that the style of football that Slot plays doesn't suit half of those Liverpool players at all. I think if you saw Salah, he looked like a passenger for most of the game until he scored a goal. You're like, why is Salah even in this squad? You'd be starting with, I'd have preferred them not to sell Fabio Carvalho and started him outright. Like, he's a good player, Carvalho is. But I think that if you're Liverpool, you're trying to steal money off clubs because they're trying to sell Kelleher for like 25 million, I've heard. He's not worth anything. I wouldn't even pay £2 million for that guy because I don't think he's a good goalkeeper. He's got no presence in the net. His distribution's meh. So I think
he's a good backup, though. I think.
Yeah, good backup, but not for a Premier League side, in my opinion. He's a great backup in the Championship.
I think he's an alright backup in a Premier League team because realistically, how often does your goalkeeper get injured? Knock on wood, you know what I mean? Like, not often.
Mate, Derby's new goalkeeper wears a cap like Cech, so Petr Cech was a unreal goalkeeper.
Yeah.
So
He was, but it's always ruined in my eyes from his time at my club, Arsenal, because he just wasn't as good. Like, literally a shadow of his former self. He was a beast. And then he comes to us and he's just like Mickey Mouse.
Look at the defence he had at Chelsea compared to.
Of course, he had to cross Mustafi, Kolasinac,
compared to
John Terry.
What's his name? Desai? Was he Fabio? Was it Carvalho? The Portuguese centre half was there as well. It was the Jose Mourinho era of. Let's just park the bus, or not even park the bus, but Mourinho ball.
Was he the goalkeeper that season when they set the record for the least amount of goals?
He set the record for like 1,000 minutes of football played and not conceding a goal in a season.
It was unreal. Yeah, he's a great goalkeeper. But
they conceded like 13. They conceded less than 20 goals that season.
Yeah.
Which, when people say, is the Invincible season or the Chelsea season like winning, like the Invincibles versus the Chelsea one, I always think the Chelsea because they conceded less goals, won more games.
But they lost.
But they lost one game in 38.
Realistically, what makes you win in football? Like
Not
either
conceding. If you could,
to win a league.
Yeah, but if you concede, then like
exactly, if
you lose the match.
I can concede 5 goals or let's say I concede 20 goals all season, like you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I lose 20 matches.
Yeah. But then you also have to look at the fact that Chelsea had an unreal attack as well. But Arsenal had.
But
we'll move on.
A better attack. Thierry Henry.
I will make a case for this. I will
Robert
build
Perez, Freddie
I
Ljungberg,
will build a
Dennis
PowerPoint.
Bergkamp.
you will build a PowerPoint. We want to see that PowerPoint in the
build-
next.
Are you going to
episode.
bring it up at the next one?
I'll build a PowerPoint for Chelsea being a better season.
Okay,
It's on here now, you've got to do
we'll
it.
make an episode just with George's PowerPoint on the subject.
Yeah, and Dan has to have like a muzzle so he can't speak over me.
I'll just mute his
Hannibal
microphone.
Lecter mask.
Okay, right. What's next? Because I think that was. The
I
last
think
game,
I
wasn't
think
it?
that was a
game,
nice
yeah.
game. So yeah, should we close?
Yeah, I mean, the next games are coming up. Hopefully they'll all be good. Hopefully, good amount of twists and turns. Hopefully United have another L. Hopefully Spurs.
What about
lose.
Chelsea? What about Chelsea?
Oh, you know what I mean. Like, let Chelsea do what they want. You know what I mean. For a little bit, it's up and down with them. So swings and roundabouts.
I think games to stand out for people to look and have an eye on.
Arsenal.
For me,
Arsenal,
12:30
Brighton.
kickoff.
Well, for me, I think will be an Ipswich Fulham just to see what the score will be in that game because I think
Oh,
they're
yeah.
both sides that are
Interesting.
able to score.
Very interesting match.
I want to see if Everton will get absolutely hammered at home against Bournemouth.
Oh, they will.
But I then think I would say West Ham City because I think West Ham have got the squad now to kind of basically hold a team like City off. If you're going to set up to defend and park the bus, I think you can if you're West Ham.
Right.
And then I think that
Man United, Liverpool.
I think Arsenal Brighton as a 12:30 kickoff is always going to be an interesting one in it because, as the saying goes, never bet on the 12:30 kickoff because anybody can win at 12:30 in the morning. It just does not matter.
It's
Chelsea
Arsenal.
Palace, obviously, you just want to see Eze actually finally getting on the board.
Newcastle, Tottenham, battle of top 4. It'll be interesting.
Let's hope for another 7-0 Liverpool against Man United. That'd be lovely.
Oh yeah, it would be.
Because nobody likes United. What a shame.
But thank you for watching, guys. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
See you next week.